What is going on, everyone? It's Phil, it's Trey, and who else? Colorado Cup winner, Ben Neal. Ben, first and foremost, congratulations. You have won the 204-player GT first put on by Green Banner this past weekend. 104 players, that's an incredible achievement. But no surprise, Ben Neal winning GTs. Who would have thought?
Well, thanks,
Definitely not me.
Yep, very, very well done. But I am also in the presence of the #1 CSM player in the world, Trey Burnett. After this weekend, he has now climbed the ITC ladder. Well deserved. Trey, you deserve all of your kudos. I know it's very difficult to say things that we're proud of and congratulate ourselves, but very, very well done, and you should be incredibly proud. So I am surrounded by greatness. It is just Phil from Mastercrafted between two incredible 40k players.
Well, thank you, Phil, for having me. I think the star of the show today, though, is Ben. He won the whole tournament. I just submarined.
In of itself.
Yep. So, Ben, people are already freaking out all over the internet, very confused as to what the heck is Ben Neal doing. He's running Space Marines, but he has taken the new Hammer of Avernai detachment, not dropping a single game, having the highest OGP, and getting some decent battle points along the way, but never breaking 90, which I think is significant in terms of looking at the scoring of things. And you had a very, very interesting run, knocking out 2 of your teammates, getting all the way through to the final round and getting the W. We'll get right into it. We'll go through your list. Ben, why don't you just talk us through the Chonky Boys, the Iron Hands, and why they were so effective?
So it's Iron Hands, their specific detachment. It plays pretty much exactly the opposite of a Gladius detachment, and that's what I've been playing previously with Blades of Ultramar and stuff. And this is just a complete 180 in actually how the list plays. A lot of the units, there's going to be overlap just because what's good in Space Marines is good in Space Marines, but the actual play style is totally different. It's reminiscent of a little bit of Ultramarines because you get that double oath from Canik Var, and you get the +1 to wound. The attachment rule is also reroll 1s to wound against the oath target. So 2 things per turn are just super dead, which was a really nice in Necron meta, where if 2 Catan go out and stand right in front of you, this list can pick up both of them with pretty high reliability. And that's kind of what I was going for, is a lot of anti-meta tech, especially with the player pack being only layout 6 and layout 1, which are both pretty shooting heavy layouts, and then Necrons being all over the place. You need to be able to pick up 1 to 2 Catan in 1 turn. So it was a lot of anti-meta tech for that. The list in general is super elite. I've got 2 units of 10 Assault Terminators, all with Thunderhammer Storm Shields, so they're 4 wounds each. One's led by Canik Var, one's led by a captain. He's got the Steel Font enhancement, so he brings a dude back to life in the command phase. I've got a Combi Lieutenant, because he's still good, despite going up in points. He's got an enhancement. It's just +1 OC. I took that for the mirror match into other Marines, because if my Combi Lieutenant is 2 OC and theirs is only 1, then they can't just, put their Combi Lieutenant on the middle and deny me. They actually have to commit something if they want to take the middle from my Combi Lieutenant. Otherwise, it's a lot of just good Marine stuff. I've got 2 Ballistas Dreads, Incursors, Scouts, a Hammer Strike for ignores cover, and then 2 Vindicators that are the 2 main damage pieces. Because if you can get all the buff stacking between Incursors, Oath, and a Hammer Strike, you're hitting on 2s rerolling, wounding on 2s rerolling, AP3 ignores cover. So however many shots you get, generally, that's how many wounds you get. And they will just pick up almost anything in the game with 1 shot. And then you get to move your oath to something Canik Var can see, and then you do it again. So it's just super high damage. Almost everything has a 2-up save. It's just super high durability as well. Yeah, the difference from Gladius, main one, can't advance and do anything, can't fall back and do anything. So the positioning is just really important. And just gotta keep that in mind. But I enjoyed it a lot. It's been super fun to play, and it just hits like a truck.
I'm sure it does, because right off the bat, the thing that stood out to me the most is something we haven't seen in a while. 20 Assault Terminators. And I think the majority of individuals are going to look at that and be like, you are willing to spend 720 points of your army, not even counting the characters that you have to attach to send them to the next level, but you're willing to spend almost half of your army on Assault Terminators, where they have not seen the meta in this kind of density at this point in 10th edition. So obviously, we're talking about 4-wound Marines, 2-up, 4-up save. 4-wound profiles are great into a Catan meta when you have a lot of damage 3 things, and they're just going to struggle to chew through that amount of Terminator parties with invols. But the one thing I think that is really beneficial that Gladius and Blades don't have is your uppy down for Terminators. My first thought was, man, if it wasn't for that, you'd probably run it in another detachment. How often did you use that uppy down strat on those assault squads?
So through the whole event, I only actually used it one time, but the threat of it is always there, and that's what makes it good. So someone has to screen their entire backfield for all 5 turns of the game. Otherwise, 10 assault terminators are going to show up and take their home. So just the threat of it is good enough without ever having to use it.
Trey, you were looking at this list, and I know you and I talked about it beforehand and in the pre-show. What were your thoughts when you were looking at a list like this?
I was terrified. I saw everything that I don't like seeing as a melee player. There's uppy downy, so I can't just force him to stay in his backfield. I have to keep resources behind me the whole entire game. He has -1 damage in melee, so all of my damage 2 goes down to damage 1. And then the bane of every CSM player's existence, Armor of Contempt, is also there. So I just saw that I'd bounce off of everything in front of me and then just get whittled down after my go turn. So I knew that this was one list I did not want to play at all.
Well, Ben, I could say that, seeing this list and stuff like this, it's really interesting coming from a great player like yourself. So overall, what made you want to switch to Iron Hands? Was there something that drew you to them that you thought in the current meta this was going to be the answer?
I have been messing around with the Hammer of Vernai detachment for a couple months before this event. Just trying to get kind of like the right mix of pieces versus vehicles to Terminators. So trying a lot of different stuff out between Redemptors, just 10 Terminators, 15, 20, etc. Just all kind of that stuff. It kind of just fits how I like to play, of just super high durability, super high damage, and just really being able to punish mistakes and stuff like that. If somebody comes out and they undercommit, then they just get wiped off the table. And it has enough movement that people say it's slow. It is compared to Gladius, but like Kamek Varg is one of the Terminators, Scout. He gives a redeploy as well. And you have the uppy downy. So it actually is a lot faster than people seem to think it is when they say, oh, it's just a bunch of Terminators with no advance in charge and no advance in shoot on anything. It's like, well, 9-inch move on a Vindicator plus 24-inch threat range is plenty for any GW layout. Ballista Shreds shoot 48. That's whole map. The Terminators, 1-unit scouts, so they move 11 inches and then charge on turn 1 if they need to. The other one cannot be downy, so it actually is fairly fast, at least fast enough to contest all the middle objectives and just put 20 dudes right in the middle of the table and say, come and get it.
Yeah, and how many actual armies can deal with that, overall? Because obviously Necrons was one of the things you were hunting in the meta, and you were able to face them round 5 into Tom Coe and one of your teammates. So tell us about that, because people are afraid of Necrons, myself included. Is something that you were planning for, teching for. What did you see in that matchup specifically going into Tom, who's an incredible 40k player?
Yeah, and his list was probably the Necron list at the event that I was most kind of worried to go into, because Doomsday Arcs are probably the best thing to kill the Terminators. And he's also got Necrosaur. And the Terminators, they love to just sit on objectives. And he's playing Star Shatter with the Silent King. So if my Terminators want to play their game plan of sit on objectives and tank, he's going to be hitting on 2s, re-rolling with sustained, wounding on 2s, re-rolling, flat 4 damage with blast as well. So that was really one of the more difficult ones. And so that game, we were on Scorched Earth. I had to play as super cagey in that one and was just barely able to kind of eke out a win by, I think, about 10 points in that one, but just playing super cagey and had to play entirely different than how the list normally does. But against like a normal Necron list that's, say, not Star Shatter or something, Terminators go sit on objectives, and a Catan will spend the entire game and will probably not kill the unit. Because like the Nightbringer, he's throwing 5 attacks. He's going to kill like 2 guys. and then they're going to whack him. They'll probably do like 5 or 6 damage. And then the next turn, I'll heal a guy back, and then they'll whack him again. He'll kill like 2 guys. I'll do 5 or 6 more damage, or I'll just fall back and then blast him off the table with a Vindicator. But they are happy to get charged by Catan as much as possible, because that is their job. They go sit there. They say, yeah, hit me with your 5 attacks. I have a 4-up invul, and then I'll just fall back, and Vindicators will shoot you off the table because now you're right in the open.
Gosh. Do you think Terminators are the answer? Trey, you and I were talking about it beforehand. You were already looking at iterations of CSM with the Ben Neal version of CSM. Is there a world where you run 20, 30 Terminators in a list?
I'd really like to, because my list at this event was taking 10 already. I'm very hot on the Terminator train. It's a ton of fun. And I think there is a world. I'm experimenting right now, but I think the better option for at least my army is Possessed, because I can get similar durability. Not with Abaddon, I can make them a 4-up invuln, or they're just, 240 points for 10 bodies at T6 with a 5-up invuln, 3 wounds. And then I can also follow it up in Packbound Zealots by maybe not an equal, but a comparable shooting layout. So I'm in the process of experimenting, but we'll see what happens. I'm pretty excited. It looks like a fun list, and I saw it and I was like, ooh, this looks great.
Well, who else but Ben Neal to get another GT win with Space Marines, obviously, in something a little strange? Before we let you go, Ben, as we want to make sure that you can get back to theory crafting, what we're going to see next for Space Marines, but your final game was into Matt Evans. And for those that don't know, we had him on recently because he also just won a GT, and going into this one, he was undefeated. You were both 5-0 going into the final round and got paired into each other. Of course, you had to knock each other out. You couldn't get into someone else, and then give yourself both a chance to finish in the top 3, but you got paired into each other, and that is a completely different list than what you normally see. It is a pure scoring list. It is taking fixed objectives, and it's just going out there trying to score. What was playing into Matt like?
Yeah, so we had actually played that matchup twice before in practice games, where I had a slightly different list. I had, instead of the second unit of 10 Terminators, I had 2 Redemptor Dreads. This was before the data slate had come out, and I won the first game, and then he won the second game. And in that second game, I really saw the downsides of the Dreadnoughts, especially in a matchup like that, where it's a 4 OC thing that can easily get wrapped up and only has 5 attacks, versus 10 Terminators that is 10 OC, and they have 30 attacks and 4-up invuls, and they can just block off an entire point. And that's what I ended up doing in our game. Is he went first, he moved some stuff up, and then I shoved 10 Terminators onto the middle and his expansion objective, and I was actually able to block off the entire middle objective, so his Norn couldn't even step onto it to get the Feel No Pain. And then the Terminators were just able to sit there and get wailed on by a Norn and a Hive Tyrant squad for probably, I think, at least 2 turns, while they were just scoring me the point and holding on there, while I was able to move the other squad and take a whole flank and kill Swarmlord and just keep him off the points, because he can out-OC me, he can outmaneuver me, but if I can just put 10 dudes in a ring and just cover the entire objective, that's the only way that I'm going to be able to win that matchup. And the Terminators were the perfect thing for that.
Gosh, yeah, it's good to have great players that you can play against. It's one of the things that we talk about all the time in terms of being able to practice and be effective at the top of the meta. You need the people around you that'll help you practice, and obviously Matt would love to get a dub into you, especially at that point. But you both going 5-0 at that point, and then only one being able to come out undefeated. It is the way things must be.
Right.
As heartbreaking as it is an incredible achievement to go 5-0 at that tournament. And then to end 6-0 and getting the GT win with OGP and all your other opponents helping you out and getting the dubs. That's huge. Any other thoughts, final thoughts, Ben, from you for the tournament as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great event. The kind of the main thing that went to my mind for the list is it was a lot of meta and event dependent. So this list, I don't know if it's good into every kind of matchup, every terrain setup. It was really good into this one of 2 shooting layouts, GW terrain, and in the current meta with Necrons being kind of the big main boogeyman that it has pretty solid matchup into. So I'm going to keep messing around with it a little bit into other matchups, but it's, yeah, like Trey said, it's really good into the melee matchup. It's fun. I need to play it a little more into kind of like Cow, especially with Twin Lance shenanigans coming out and stuff like that, and kind of see how it does there. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we're all bracing for the Tau impact of this absolute monstrous unit of Twin Lance. Please, GW, just like some of the rules need to change. I don't even want a points increase. We just need to change a few of those rules because I don't think I've seen a unit that can do pretty much everything in the game like Twin Lance can do. So I know our good friend John Kilcommons is very excited to get Twin Lance on the table at a GT.
As he should be.
I know he's been talking all our ears off about how excited he is. I am not. I am not excited to see that unit on the table.
Well, I have to practice against him, so we'll see what happens. He was talking to me the other day, and he's like, I would have spent 250 points on that unit. I was not excited to see it at 160, I will say.
All right, well, quickly, Trey, just some thoughts from you. I know we've been gushing over Ben and talking about how great his Space Marines were, but you also finished 5-1. You also had a great tournament run. You did incredibly well with your CSM and Huron Marauders. Are there any thoughts overall? And I know we're going to do a breakdown shortly of a couple of your games and your thoughts on the list, but talk us through your list. Talk us through your thoughts of it. I'd love to hear what you're thinking.
Yeah, so weirdly, it has some similarities to Ben in the way I used Terminators. So Huron's Marauders is just a very blanket good detachment, gives my whole army +1 to hit, and then or fallback, shoot, and charge. So I'm very mobile, hit pretty hard for points cost. It just makes all my cheap data sheets that much more efficient. I had a Chaos Lord and Terminator armor with 10 Terminators, no enhancement. Basically what this allowed me to do is I have a stratagem to pick up a unit that's within 6 inches of a board edge, not wholly within. So as long as one model's within 6, I can pick it up at the end of my opponent's fight phase. Followed by Cypher. He is auto-include in every CSM list, just like the Combi Weapon Lieutenant. Great lone op threat. He has Vectora, and just hard to remove, and usually gets people to overcommit to get rid of him. Habeas Bile with 10 Chosen. Great all-around threat. A lot harder to deal with for a lot of armies, because it's just a bunch of 3 wounds. He blanks his save, and he gets back up on a 2-up. So usually I'll run him into the center of the opponent's army. They'll kill the whole unit. Fabius gets back up and then hunts down an extra trash piece or scores some points in their deployment zone because, you know, they kill him in the fight phase and he gets up at the end of the phase. A Huron Blackheart, what makes this detachment tick, has a react move and aura of +1 OC. You'll see later in the list, but he flexes between what unit he attaches to because he's just very versatile. We got Cultists for the backfield, 2 units of 5 legionaries with las cannons, 3 rhinos, that Terminator squad, 5 chosen, 10 chosen, and then Masters of the Maelstrom, and finally Noise Marines. That super efficient. I love me some Noise Marines. They get dark packs while they're in a rhino, and then whenever they're outside, the +1 to hit is fantastic. But the biggest part of this detachment, I'd say the stratagem I use the most, is auto 6-inch advance. It helps just project my threat range, makes it so much more consistent to get into combat, and just allows me to make big swings that a lot of people don't expect. And then the other one, like Ben said about how his uppy downy, it was something he barely used that everyone had to plan around. In Huron's Marauders, I have 1 CP Blood Surge on anything in my army. So including those rhinos, which is hilarious, anything can D6 Blood Surge. So basically, everybody I played against, you had to stay outside of 7 inches of every unit to shoot them, essentially. And I only used it like twice the whole tournament, and both times I used it, it was extremely impactful.
Well, it's those tools, right? Everyone has tools in their list, and unfortunately, it is much harder to play one-dimensional 40k. You have to have something that can force your opponent into a situation where they have a difficult decision to make. For Ben, it's that 2-up, 4-up. It's the resurrecting of a model. It's the ability to -1 damage, right? Like to throw off somebody's math. For Trey, it's reactive moves. It's going back into deep strike. For Ben, it's going back into deep strike, right? If you look at these lists that are winning these tournaments, it is a tool unique to that army a lot of the times that is forcing your opponent to be in a position where there's not an optimal choice. For Ben, like there's not many optimal choices. Maybe DDAs might be the only one. I don't know anyone else that has consistent flat 4 damage with blast in the
Riptides.
entire game of 40k.
think Riptides are the only other thing that are comparable to DDAs, re-rolling ones from stealth suits. I looked at Ben's list, and then in our Discord, I was like, John, please handle this for me. I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, I think perfectly fair. And that window is very, very narrow. So did you get paired into Tau at all, Ben?
No, I didn't play them at this event.
Would you be concerned about the Tau matchup?
I mean, they have the tools to kill the Terminators, definitely, but when they're doing that, then they're at least exposing things. And with Riptides, only T9, the Ballistic Dreads can actually, with Super Oath, have a pretty decent shot at picking them up because they've got 4 shots, rerolling hits, wounding on 2s, rerolling. So they've actually got a pretty good shot at picking up a Riptide, a lot better than like a DDA that's got more wounds, a 4-up invul, and can heal.
That makes perfect sense to me. Who would have thought? Ben Neal thought of it all. Going into Tau is not as bad as you think it is.
It's definitely not a fun matchup, I will say.
Especially on layout 6 and layout 1. Those aren't necessarily great for the Tau matchup, but you were able to get through. So we'll end with some final thoughts, Ben. For those that are aspiring competitive players that are going out there looking to win their first GT or go positive or whatever the case, if you had one piece of advice to give them, what would your one piece of advice for all those players who want to get to the next level of their competitive experience?
And just find a play group of like-minded people who practice the right way, who play by intent, no gotchas, nothing like that, because that's not how anyone gets better, and that's not how the game is meant to be played. So it's an open information game. Everyone's playing with all the information that's available, help each other out, and that's the way that you get better, is finding those people and just playing consistently with them and recognizing your mistakes and learning from them instead of taking an opportunity to do a gotcha where you win right away, but then nobody's learning anything.
Nope. Great advice, Ben. As always, Trey, any final thoughts as the #1 CSM player in the world right now? Any thoughts for our competitive, like-minded folks? Maybe a shout out for CSM players around the world who are griping to us on our Discord about how they just cannot play in the meta right now. They're just awful.
I would just say, similar to Ben, is play your game. You don't have to meta hop to do well. That any army in the game right now can do well. We had a fellow friend, Will Griner, on Grey Knights, who everyone thinks is the worst army in the game. He went 4-2. Great run. I would just say play by intent. I know me personally, every single battle round, I told my opponent, I was like, okay, Blood Surge army wide. This is the one unit with the reactive move. Go. Just because I wanted everything to be very clear. Don't want any feel bad moments. I want them to act with full knowledge of what my army can do, because I hate winning games off of gotchas. That is not me. And by playing one army, I fear faction specialists more than I fear anyone else. Ben Neal, for example, all he does is play Space Marines. Matt Evans, all he does is Tyranids. John Kilcommons on Tau. And that is where the real threat lies, because if somebody shows up with Necrons, it's their first time playing Crons, and they have the best list, they're going to make way more mistakes than you think. And that's kind of the gamble I went through at this event. I was like, okay, if I hit a Crons player, they might not know the army. I know my army well, so I'm just going to play my game.
Yeah, absolutely great advice. Ben, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate all the thoughts. And I know for all our Space Marine players who are as aggressively as possible, grabbing as many Assault Terminators as I could possibly get their hands on to recreate your build, they are absolutely ecstatic that they can run something that isn't Gladius. But I will put an asterisk next to that. Ben said it. It's really important. This does not work on every matchup. It does not work on every layout. It does not work in every mission set. But Ben did the homework to get ready for a tournament like this, so he was prepared, and he knew exactly how he wanted to play this list with the units that he had, and that's why he felt so comfortable going into a tournament like this, and it resulted in a GT win. So I can't blame the process, because it obviously worked. Ben, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. Trey, thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate it. And guys at home, don't forget, victory isn't given, it's forged, and it's forged right here on Mastercrafted. We'll talk to you soon.